Joining me next is Randy May of the Free State Foundation to talk about another hot topic, net neutrality. Welcome, Mr. May.
Good to be with you, Jason.
Netflix CEO Reed Hastings has been lobbying in favor of net neutrality, the idea that all internet traffic should be treated the same. What stake does a content company like Netflix have in this debate, and what's wrong with treating all internet traffic equally the way Mr. Hastings wants?
Well, the notion that treating all internet traffic equally sounds appealing, at least superficially. It's a nice slogan, but the reality is that this type of government non-discrimination mandate actually inhibits internet providers freedom to offer new products and new services that are innovative. It limits their ability really to experiment with features and functions that respond in this rapidly changing internet environment that we live in to distinct customer demands and different customer needs. You know, for Mr. Hastings' part with Netflix, he essentially has a deal now where he rides on top of the facilities of the internet providers who've invested in building their networks. The providers are not able to charge him for riding on top of their facilities. So from his perspective, that's a pretty good deal.
Okay. Now, everyone today is walking around with smartphones. Applications are proliferating, and we hear constant talk about a spectrum shortage. Is there a real spectrum shortage? And if so, what is the best way for our public policymakers to address it, Mr. May?
Well, under the laws of physics, spectrum is a finite resource, and it's certainly true that there's an explosion in demand for spectrum. That's something that's measurable. And of course, this explosion in demand for spectrum, Jason, is driven in large part by the surge in internet video traffic, with more and more smartphone use, particularly on the new 4G high bandwidth networks. What we really need is for the FCC to be more flexible in terms of allowing the freer transfer of spectrum in the secondary market, not to be as restrictive as it is in prohibiting the free transfer of spectrum, and also to allow more flexible use by licensees in the spectrum they have, so they can repurpose spectrum.
Let me jump in there, because the regulators say that we need to be concerned about the big players, the AT&Ts and the Verizons, and a few other large broadband providers controlling too much of the industry and being able to drive up prices. Is that a concern that you share?
Right. You know, at some point, of course, concentration in the marketplace is a legitimate concern. Nobody wants to return to the days of Ma Bell circa the early 1980s. But the reality is that right now the broadband market really is effectively competitive with cable and satellite operators, wireline telephone companies, and wireless providers all competing for customers in the marketplace. It's true that the services they offer aren't perfectly substitutable. It's not the proverbial wheat market that we study in Economics 101, but we do have a marketplace that's workably competitive, and I'm afraid that we'd be far worse off if we allow the FCC to intervene at this point rather than letting the marketplace work.